In this video, I'm going to give you my spoiler-free, honest review of Hogwarts Legacy. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Hogwarts Legacy. So I played through Hogwarts Legacy. I have the Platinum. I played all four houses up to Jackdaw's Rest. And I feel like I've had a very long taste of the game. And that's why this review didn't come out like right when it launched, unlike all the other reviews you get where they played half the game. The other thing is I did not get a review copy. And I will also say that I have not read the Harry Potter books. I have not watched a Harry Potter movie all the way to the end. The only thing I have done is I have visited Universal Studios in Orlando's Wizarding World, and I really felt like I was in the Wizarding World at Universal Studios in this game, but it was much bigger in this game. I thought it was very well done, but there will be people who are better, who are more into the Harry Potter Wizarding World that could review it on those grounds of lore and whatnot. So if you're coming to this video and you're maybe not a super Harry Potter fan, that would be my perspective, is that I'm not a super Harry Potter fan. And if you are a super Harry Potter fan, I'm not going to address the issues that necessarily a person who's read all the books and watched all the movies several times, like my daughter, would be able to critique. Alright, so I'm going to use four categories which I've used on my prior review videos. I typically do open world games, the story-driven open world games. So they're going to be graphics and world, that's one, gameplay, inventory and crafting, and story at the end, but this will be a spoiler-free review. Alright, so in terms of the graphics, I thought the graphics were very good, the character models are very good, the world is big. I also think the only thing that really kind of annoyed me about this was that there were loading screens. So there were a lot of loading screens in this game, and they were not super quick. They were, so like if you walked out in the courtyard, there was a loading screen, or if you went into this particular dungeon, there was a loading screen, and then the dungeon would have no access to the map, the greater map. And so for instance, if you decide, oh, you went into the dungeon and then you have to walk all the way out, right, instead of fast traveling out. I did like the fast traveling system for the most part, except for that loading screen issue that you go in the dungeon, you can't fast travel, but you could fast travel wherever you go, so you didn't have to go to a fast travel point to fast travel someplace else, which kind of has annoyed me about like the Cyberpunk games and The Witcher 3, for instance, by CD Projekt Red, that you have to actually physically go to the fast travel someplace else. Whereas this is more similar to the Ghost of Tsushima, but not as good as Ghost of Tsushima because of that loading screen issue. And I felt like you had a good access to the open world. You were not blocked in the open world, so I also think that was nice, you know. So it wasn't like kind of a fake open world like you have in the God of War games, where you maybe it's a hub world but you're in a linear path for a lot of times. That was not really true in Hogwarts Legacy. It was a true open world. And then the next one is gameplay. So I thought the gameplay was, so before I go to the next one, I'll just say the graphics and world, I'd say 8 out of 10. Maybe I should give it 9 out of 10. It was good. It was probably the strongest part, but I'm probably taking it down a notch for the loading screen issue. And then the gameplay I thought was good, but a little bit unbalanced. One thing is that I thought that they were good about introducing spells slowly and introducing things slowly, although that was a bit annoying when you're forced to play the intro or the first quarter of the game again to get the platinum, because you just like, come on, give me the spells so I can get through this. But I I thought that was good that they introduced those through classes and assignments. It made you feel like the Hogwarts student. So I didn't mind that, especially on the first playthrough. But it was somewhat confining that you only got 4 spells at a time, and then you'd have to switch your spell set. But even worse was the wheel, right? So I did a very herbology type playthrough where for most of it, where I had traits, I used herbology level 3 as my primary trait on all my armor, and I used the mandrake, the cabbage, and the Chinese chomping cabbage, and the venomous tentacular, which is the kind of the Venus flytrap looking plant that shoots things. And so to access those, and also the potions, it was a really big wheel. It was like a wheel with 10 items on it. And that was also very clunky. For some reason on the PlayStation 5, you would often select the wrong thing on the wheel. And so instead of having fast slots, you only had like 1 fast slot for the healing potion Wiggenweld, but you didn't have any fast slots. And then you had 1 fast slot for whichever one you selected. But you really needed more than that, right? You needed to be able to switch between mandrake and a potion or several potions relatively easily. Now, time slows to nothing, but it just was clunky. Going to the wheel, finding the thing on the wheel, and then oftentimes you would select the thing on the wheel and then you'd go into the game and consume it and realize you've got the wrong thing, right? So you got an invisibility potion instead of a mandrake. And that just is, I don't know, it was not perfect. I thought the cooldown system was okay. I thought the spell casting was okay. There were clearly, you start out the game with kind of really bad spells, but they get so much better by the end of the game. The other thing is, so that goes to the balance issue. So I mean, the first time I did my second playthrough, I was like, I know this game backwards and forwards. I've been destroying people for hours and hours and hours, killing 10 foes in 30 seconds, right? So I mean, I did the arenas in 2 minutes each, right? With almost no damage, right? Because I was so overpowered for most of the game. But then when I went back and started the prologue again, and they put you in an arena fight where they want you to use Stupefy, and I never had to use Stupefy in the rest of the game except for that early part. So I mean, I think that was a Stupefy tutorial, but you were also just so weak, you're doing like 1 point of damage, that it was just really time consuming and hard. And so I put it on hard, and then I had to turn it back down to a lower level of difficulty to get past it that time. Now on the second and third times that I did, you have to do all 4 houses to get the platinum. Then I was able to do it on hard because I was getting better at Stupefy and the Deflecto or whatever that is, the spell. But you don't really need to use those spells for most of the game, and they're actually not that effective because you probably will be able to either kill the foes from a distance or with stealth or with combat vegetables so easily that it just is not necessary, and you can get away with dodging. So there's the dodging, and I think the other thing about gameplay that maybe a bit annoying was the XP system. So the XP system was really odd compared to any game I'd ever played, that it was solely based on challenges. Now, it was somewhat similar to the labor system in God of War, that you get XP for completing a labor, but it was not quite like that. It was that you only got XP for completing tasks within your challenges. And so when you ran out of tasks within your challenges, you got no more XP. So for instance, you could relatively easily, before playing the end of the game, if you're focused on it, to get all the combat XP possible, and then you're not going to get any more XP from combat for the rest of the game. And so you got to focus on something else like Merlin Trials to get XP. So that was odd. And, it just makes it really difficult to get to max level if that's something you want to do. And it made it more grindy to do that. I think the other issue is that one of those challenges was the dueling feats, and so they would tell you to kill them in a certain way. And so instead of like a free-form gameplay and just kind of like blowing through them, you'd be like, oh, I gotta do this dueling feat, and so I gotta change my wheel for spells and make sure I got that spell thing and make sure I don't kill them too quickly, because I gotta make sure I kill them with the dueling feat so I can get that little bit of XP. I don't know. I thought it overall detracted from the gameplay, but it is also kind of similar to the Assassin's Creed Valhalla's mastery challenge system. That you have to do the kills a certain way for them to count in the mastery challenges in Valhalla, but that's not ubiquitous. You have to actually go seek out the mastery challenges in Valhalla, whereas those little pop-ups pop up in every single one of your battles, and so you're like, oh, I missed out on that. I didn't do that. I didn't get the check mark for that. So that was I don't know, just a little kind of forcing it too much, I thought. But maybe some people like it. So I guess gameplay, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Maybe I should give it 7 out of 10. And then the next one was I think it should be 7 out of 10. And then inventory and crafting. I liked the inventory and crafting system, but I didn't like that it was introduced until like over halfway through the game, right? That you weren't able to do crafting, that is, use the loom. So you need to get to the elf, the knapsack, and the loom to get the loom so you can upgrade your gear. And so I didn't like that the crafting system was delayed so long into the game. So then it just was like the stats. It was like you just are always looking for the stats. So you get new pieces of gear, and if it increases your stats, then put it on. And then change its appearance to whatever piece of gear you prior had that you like the look of best at that particular moment. So I would give them high marks for the fact that the transmog system was so easy and so integrated into it, so that you never were dependent on, oh, this piece of gear has great stats, but it looks like terrible. So you didn't have to make that choice. You would put the thing that looks terrible, put it on, and then change its appearance immediately. You get the best stats too. And then you need to sell quickly. So they do introduce the Merlin Trials relatively early in the main stories, but I don't know. I mean, the Merlin Trials are a bit annoying, I thought, unless you know the answers to them, and then you can breeze through them constantly. So you need to unlock a certain number of Merlin Trials to increase your inventory. So you really need, once you get that Merlin Trial quest, you need to unlock 2 Merlin Trials right away, so you get your inventory for clothes up to 24. And that way you can actually get through missions without wasting clothes, which you could sell at Glad Rags or another vendor for coin, because coin is actually relatively scarce at some points in the game. So you have really nothing to buy with your coin early on in the game, but what you should be doing is you should be buying seeds, and you should be buying conjurations, all for your room requirement, and potion recipes, all for your room requirement for when you get to potions class and herbology class, and then you finally get to the room requirement quest when you can start making potions and having offensive plants and producing those in large quantities. And so I guess that was the other issue for me, is that you have to wait so long to get those plants, so you get that one small pot so you could grow some mandrakes in it if you want, but that's also taking away from your growing of Dittany leaves for Wiggenweld potion. So I just found it a bit annoying that it was delayed so long. I don't think it was necessary to delay the crafting system so long, and of course the inventory system is totally inadequate, and the relationship between Merlin trials and your inventory system was not great. I mean, I don't understand why that would affect your inventory. So it didn't have any kind of story reasons for doing it. It was just kind of a checklist reward for doing Merlin trials, which there were way too many of, like 96, I think. Almost 100 Merlin trials to do to get the platinum. So 7 out of 10, I would say, for inventory crafting. Good for the transmog system, bad for the small inventory, bad for the fact that crafting was delayed so late in the game. But I thought the crafting was, my favorite part of the game. It's just the room requirement was my favorite part of the game, and I thought the room requirement was awesome. It just was delayed too long. Okay, story. So this is kind of the structure of the story is that you are the chosen one. You have access to ancient magic and nobody else does, except for maybe Ranrock, and you are going to tap this source of power, right? And that's basically the entire plot. Now, I mean, there's, and I don't think that's a spoiler because that's introduced from the introduction. So it's not that complicated a story. There are side quests and there are some other like character building moments, but overall, that chosen one storyline was not terribly interesting, nor were the villains terribly interesting or complex. There were bad guys and good guys. There was a lot of dialogue, and so I guess that was good, and there was attempts to have character building, especially for your companion quests, the companion side quests, but it wasn't great. So I'd say 6 out of 10. Good marks for the voice acting and the character models and the attempt at story building. Lower marks because the main story was just not that interesting. Hogwarts Legacy is really just an excuse to be a student at Hogwarts, I think, and that was awesome. That is why I think people love it. And I thought it was a great game. So I would recommend it to you if you like open world games. If you're a Harry Potter fan, for sure you would want to try this out. You want to enroll in Hogwarts. But, if you want complex stories, no. If you want challenging gameplay all the time, no. So I think it's not necessarily for everyone, even though it seems like everyone bought the game. So don't be too mad in the comments if I didn't give it so I think its overall rating is 7 out of 10. I would say that's a B minus, maybe buy. I've definitely reviewed games worse. This is I think the best new release that came out in early 2023. So why not play Hogwarts Legacy? That's my honest view. Subscribe to the Linus Wilson channel. We give you the secrets to crush Hogwarts Legacy.